Quarter 2 DCA Part 2 from The Mermaid of Druid Lake by Charles Weathers Bump. If Edwin Horton had not had a sleepless time that hot June night, it probably would have never happened. As it was, after tossing and pitching on an uncomfortably warm mattress for several hours, he had dressed himself and left his Boston Avenue home for a stroll in Druid Hill Park, just as the dawn made itself evident. That was the beginning of the adventure. Not a soul was in sight when he reached the driveway around the big lake, and he let out a little vigorous exercise, breathing in the fresh air with more enjoyment than had been his for some hours. About halfway around, he stopped suddenly and rubbed his eyes to make sure he was not dreaming. For a curve in the road had brought him the knowledge that he was not alone in his appreciation of the early morning hour. Seated beside the water on the rocks that lined the lake shore was a damsel, a rather good-looking one, as well as he could judge at the distance of 100 yards. She was leaning on her left elbow and looking out over the lake in a rather pensive, dreamy attitude. Of course, young ladies don't ordinarily get up before dawn and go to Druid Hill Park for the purpose of sitting alone beside the wide sweep of city water, and Edwin naturally felt some surprise at the novelty of the sight. Besides, she was inside the high iron railing, and he wondered how she had gotten there. In the intensity of his interest, he slowed down in his pace as he drew nearer along the roadway. Should he watch her unobserved for a while to ascertain her purpose? Should he frankly hail her and ask her whether she objected to company? Should he? Well, the damsel settled his doubts for him just then by discovering him. She appeared startled, and he fancied she half meant to plunge into the lake. Then she changed her mind, gave him a bewitching little smile, and raised her free hand to beckon him. Edwin needed no second invitation. The novelty of the situation was too alluring to resist. In another moment, he had scaled the fence and was clambering awkwardly down the rocks. And as he came close, he found her a very pretty damsel indeed, with youthful rosy cheeks, fetching blue eyes and long, light tresses that hung unconfined from her head down upon the sloping rocks behind her. She was smiling, and yet he thought he detected a renewed feeling to slip away from him before he had drawn too close. Then he had a shock. She was only half a woman. The other half was fish, scaly fish, partly submerged in the waters of the lake. She was the first to speak. "Good morning to you, stranger." "In the name of heaven, who are you?" he stammered as he sat down awkwardly beside her. "And are you really half fish?" "I am what you see." "This is certainly an odd adventure," he remarked. "Tell me, Lady of the Lake, do you often sit here in this unconventional fashion with gentlemen callers?" "What would you give to know?" she asked teasingly. "You are the first for a long, long time," she went on. "Last summer there was a man in a gray uniform who saw me, but he looked so uninteresting, I swam away." "When are you here?" he asked earnestly. "I love to sit on the bank when fair aurora makes the dawning day grow rosy," she acknowledged. "But I have to flee to the depths when the full sun comes." She looked to the east. "It's growing late," she added hurriedly. "I must be going." "No, not yet," he pleaded. "Do not detain me," she cried. "I must go. It means life to me." Gracefully, she glided into the water at his feet.